One. Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of the 24th episode of the Brothers of Broad Street podcast. As always, I'm here with Bryce Ellig. My name's Jim Croger. We're not going to take long on this part. We just want to go over the Ben Simmons saga with the Philadelphia 76ers. For those of you who don't know, Ben Simmons returned out of nowhere last night to the Sixers facility to take his COVID-19 test. Bryce, what are your thoughts on that, him just showing up out of the blue?
I actually heard that someone texted Elton Brand and was like, Ben Simmons is here. And he was like, you're funny. Like he thought he was kidding, but he's like, no, he's actually like outside the building. I'm not paying too much of my mind into it because how I see it is Ben Simmons, he acted all tough, like, oh, whatever. Now when he loses $300K, like every day he doesn't come to practice or whatever, $300,000 is a lot of money. That is a ton of money.
I could use it right now. I could use it.
I wouldn't mind. Suit me up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind making $300K a day.
Brian Windhorst put it perfectly today. He's like, Ben Simmons he bluffed. The Sixers caught it and he folded. Like
1,000%.
And do I still think Ben Simmons wants to get traded? Yes. He's nowhere near the type of player that Jimmy Butler is. Me, just like Joel Embiid, I wanted Butler to stay in Philadelphia when it came down to that. But Ben Simmons is going to pull a Jimmy Butler type move. I think he's going to come in. He's going to play as hard as he possibly can, do whatever he does with the passing, the triple doubles, the rebounds, his defensive skill. And he's just going to make himself so valuable that the Sixers and teams have to be talking trade. Because I still don't think he wants to be with Philadelphia.
If we can convince Kyrie Irving to get the vaccine, that would be awesome.
That is a swap that I think would work perfectly for both organizations. But Daryl Morey is a smart enough general manager that he's not going to make that trade. Because if you look at that Brooklyn Nets team, they don't really have a center. Like Bruce Brown is not going to go up against Joel Embiid. No. And Ben Simmons, we all know, is 6'10", 6'11". He doesn't like to shoot. So what better person to put him at the 5?
Well, I know they brought in a center. Didn't they bring in somebody? Not a good guy, but like just somebody.
I'm not sure, but I'm just talking in terms of like if they say a swap happens, Kyrie for Simmons straight up. All right. Well, then the Brooklyn Nets have Patty Mills, James Harden, backcourt. All right, those are your point guard, shooting guard, Harden, Patty Mills. Your small forward would be Kevin Durant, power forward, Blake Griffin, or LaMarcus Aldridge.
Or Paul Millsap. They got Paul Millsap now, too.
Yeah.
They have so much.
That's who's going to start at center. LaMarcus Aldridge probably will start at center.
I would say it's one of those guys will start at center over Bruce Brown.
But if you bring in Simmons, you put Simmons at the 5, and that is a dangerous team. I think that the Brooklyn Nets, if they got Simmons, would be better off than the Sixers would be if they got Kyrie.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Ben Simmons doesn't fit the Sixers perfectly, but would fit a lot of other teams perfectly that have I think he'd be a great fit for like the Warriors, depending on how good Klay Thompson would be if he came back. Like if Klay comes back and is like 80% of his normal self, Ben Simmons would be like perfect for that team.
I don't think the Warriors want him because I think Draymond Green has
I don't think they want Ben Simmons either, and I don't think there's a piece where we can figure it out because I don't want like Jordan Poole and I would like James Wiseman. I wouldn't hate that. But
that trade that the Pacers offered, supposedly Malcolm Brogdon and Karis LeVert and the first round picks, I actually would have taken that deal because I think LeVert has potential for a breakout season this year.
He's hurt all the time.
I was going to say injuries have slowed his career down immensely. And Malcolm Brogdon, I like the player, but he gets hurt all the time too. So those are two guys that you can't rely on. At least Simmons, although we want him to shoot and make free throws, at least he's going to show up 95% of the games.
Well, I mean, Ben is still an all-star caliber player. He's still a jump shot away from being one of the best players in the NBA. I don't know if it will ever happen, but you can't deny the fact that his defensive ability is unbelievable. He's, to me, this, could be defensive player of the year every single year. You know,
Let me ask you
obviously,
a question. I'll give you three options. Does Ben Simmons come back and shoot jump shots? Does Ben Simmons come back and just play how he's normally been playing? Or does Ben Simmons come back and just completely dog it and play awful?
it's really, really tough to me. But for right now, I feel like it's so tough because a lot can change. Like, you know, maybe his attitude is coming in. Like, I don't know. Like, only Ben Simmons knows, you know, how he's going to come in. I want to say he's going to come in and shoot. I mean, I listen. I would have welcomed Ben Simmons back if he wanted to come back and play. I would welcome him back. I could get over this. I want to see Ben Simmons succeed. I am a fan of him. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA. I know you're not as
High on him. Yeah.
high on him as I am, but he's been at Philly since the whole he was the process. With Embiid, he was the process. He's had a lot of great moments in Philly, and I just feel like I feel like the best of him. There's still something left in there. Like he could still. I mean, he's still very young. Obviously, we know that he's an athletic freak. But I mean, if he can just develop some confidence, me and you both know that's a title for the Sixers. And I know we've been saying that for years, and I know in 24 podcasts now we've probably talked about this at least 5 to 10 times.
Oh yeah. In
Going over
terms of like percentages for those three categories, I would say there's a 70% chance that he comes back and just plays how he's always been playing. Pass first mentality, good on defense. I would say there's about a 25% chance he comes back shooting jump shots and just lighten it up and down the court.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then I would say there's about a 5% chance that he comes back and just dogs it.
I don't think he's going to dog it.
It's so hard for me to kind of see where the rest of this team is at because it's like Embiid's like, oh, he hasn't talked to me all off season. But then at the same time, Embiid's like, I expect him to come back, work hard, and just play how he's normally been playing. Danny Green says, oh, if he apologizes, great. If not, who cares? We're grown men. Let's just get to playing again. We're the best team with him. Seth Curry's like, he's a grown man. And then Doc Rivers is like, yeah, let's go. Let's get it going. Practice on Friday.
I think we can all agree, and I think you can agree, and I think the players, obviously I can't speak for them, but I think they can all agree. If Ben Simmons comes back and gets on, gets in a press conference and apologizes, says, you know what, guys, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I was being dramatic. I'm ready to put my head down. I'm ready to work harder than anybody else. I would forgive him 100%.
Every Philadelphia fan, would they be mad or upset with him at first? Yes, but they would forgive him and they would cheer and support him just like any other Philadelphia athlete.
I talked to our first guest ever, Kevin Gasandi. We all know he loves the Sixers as much as anybody else, and he said if we he said things about Ben Simmons that I'm not going to say on the podcast. He'll say that, but he also said, along with me and other guys, that if he comes back, we'll welcome him with open arms. If he apologizes, we can all get over this and they can be a winning team.
Dude, even if he comes back with the free throws and just starts hitting his free throws and just, says, listen, the mind's not bothering me anymore. I'm not affected by my mind and just starts playing. Like that's all we need for this Sixers team that was the number one team in the East. Like they were the number one team in the East. They had it set up for them last year.
And the other thing is I keep seeing these trades like, yes, we could get Colin Sexton and Kevin Love, which I would like that deal. And we could get De'Aaron Fox and Marvin Bagley. Yes, I would like that deal. But to me, the only thing I was really honestly willing to give up Ben Simmons for, because I don't care what anybody says, he's still a top 20-ish player in the league, even with, his concerns. And I get there's a lot of great players in the NBA. But the Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard were the only two guys I was willing to package up, with other guys to get rid of Ben Simmons. Those were the only two guys to me. Obviously, maybe there's a third guy I'm not thinking of, but to me, I'm not willing to. I don't want Karis LeVert and
yeah, it's like they're not role players, but it's like
that's like getting two Robert Covington to me.
They're good players, but they're just like it's like like you're not really getting And I'm not saying Simmons is the best player in the league, but he's a very good player, and you want him on your team. You're talking. I think the third player you were thinking of was Kyrie. If he gets the vaccine and comes back and plays.
Kyrie.
Covering your speaker.
My bad.
There you go. You're good.
We all know Kyrie. You don't know Kyrie. He's going to be a problem. He's just always been a problem. So
that's the one thing, too, is the best case scenario, in my opinion, for the Sixers organization, Ben Simmons, and just teams around the league. Ben Simmons comes back, plays his tail off, plays very well. The Portland Trailblazers or the Washington Wizards start to struggle bad. And then at that point, either Lillard or Beal turns around to their organizations and say, listen, I love it here. I wanted to win a championship, but this just isn't working out. Let's make a trade. Send me to Philadelphia. And then swap Simmons and the picks for one of those guys. That would be my hope still, because I don't think that the Sixers can recover from this past offseason and win a championship.
I mean, I think there's a lot of better teams out there. I think we can both agree the Bucks, unbelievable. I think, the Lakers, we'll see how that experiment works with Russell Westbrook. He could either really help them out. He could really hurt them. There's a lot of teams. I'm obviously not, thinking like on the top of my head, but there's a lot of teams that to me right now, I feel like are better than the Sixers. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean,
right now, I think the team's better than the Sixers. You got, in my opinion, better than the Sixers, Lakers, Phoenix Suns,
Jazz. The Jazz are another team that I think are better than the Sixers.
Utah Jazz, Denver Nuggets are going to be fully healthy.
They're going to be really solid. Expect a big year at Michael Porter Jr.
Milwaukee Bucks, Brooklyn Nets, and you're going to be shocked. I think the Miami Heat are better than us right now.
I think that's close, but I'd probably give Miami the edge.
The additions of Kyle Lowry and bringing back Oladipo, hopefully he can stay healthy, because I do like Oladipo as a player. Alongside Jimmy Butler and Bam, you still got Duncan Robinson and Hero. Like, that's a good team building over there in Miami. So those are the teams right now that I would take over the Sixers, just with all the stuff and confusion we got going on. But Bryce, obviously great episode. Do you want to get voice just cracked there? Do you want to get anything else in before you finish off?
Who's your MVP so far for the NFL season?
Wow, great question. Right now, my NFL MVP is Tom Brady. And listen, like you said earlier, is he better than he is now than what he was in his actual prime? The dude is lighting up the field right now. I mean, he's throwing touchdowns left and right. Granted, the Patriots game, he didn't play that well. But could you imagine going back to your team after 20 years, after all you did?
Also the rain.
No one had any grip. You can't catch the ball. You can't throw the ball in those kind of conditions. That's just a typical ground and pound type of game. I think tomorrow night,
still won.
I think tomorrow night Brady's going to throw for another 403, maybe 4 touchdowns. Like, seriously, and we're talking
throw for 4 touchdowns tomorrow.
Yeah,
no doubt. He's throwing for 4.
And like you said, like this dude on pace for like 4,500 yards.
And, I also want to bring up a quick point. This is probably one of only 5 times. I completely agree with Jim. Tom Brady's currently my MVP too.
Another guy to look out for. Great question, Bryce. Good way to finish off this episode. Justin Herbert, also my quarterback in fantasy football too. Look out for him for MVP. I mean, this Chargers team knocked off the Chiefs. They just knocked off, who'd they just beat?
They just beat the Browns. Big win. I got Eckler in fantasy. People were questioning the pick for me in my one league. I said, we'll see. I think he's going to have a monster year. He's been a stud so far. I know he's a big fantasy guy. If you're listening, Austin Eckler, shout out you. Been killing it.
Now, my dark horse candidate to start the season for MVP was obviously Carson Wentz. Yours was Matt Stafford. Are you sticking with Stafford being a dark horse candidate, or do you want to switch it up now after a 5-week?
I'm sticking with Stafford. Still don't think it's crazy that obviously there's guys like Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I don't think Stafford's really in the running necessarily right now, but I mean, he probably won't win it, but I definitely think he's a dark horse. I think Carson Wentz is 1,000% out of it unless he – not saying to hate him.
I mean, Colts are just having not good season at all. Jonathan Taylor.
Like a ton of touchdowns. He's only got I think he has less than 10 touchdowns on the season.
I mean, obviously still a lot of games left. We still got 12 games to go, or 11 games to go.
Stafford could have back-to-back 5-touchdown games. There could be players that get hurt. You got to account for that stuff. Another guy in it that people aren't talking about, Dak Prescott, definitely should be in the conversation.
I want to bring up Prescott and do one more player before we end off here that I think is a dark horse candidate. Don't look now, but I was big on the Titans before the season started. Derrick Henry is quietly on pace to break Eric Dickerson's rushing.
624 yards. I think I saw today.
And I wouldn't put it past him. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to break the record.
I think if you break the record, I think that might have been the last MVP that wasn't a quarterback was Adrian Peterson like 10 years ago.
Like imagine if he breaks the record and leads that Titans team to, because he's the quarterback of that team. Tannehill's a good player, but Derrick Henry.
Tannehill's good. Tannehill's good.
Tannehill's the running back. Henry's the quarterback in terms of running the offense for that team. Imagine if Henry leads this Titans team to a postseason berth and gets the rushing record.
Well, if he gets 2,000 something rushing yards, he's going to score. He might have a shot at breaking LT's record with touchdowns. I mean, he's scoring like 3 touchdowns a game. It's crazy.
That was one of my trivia questions on my TikTok. If you haven't already, follow my TikTok too. I just post trivia questions. But Bryce,
gotta follow the TikTok.
Who holds the record for most rushing touchdowns in a season?
Most rushing?
You just said it. LT, but how many?
LT. I thought you were like tricking me or something. I was like,
no. How many does he have?
I think he had, what was it, like 23? 24? Like way over 28? Like
28 rushing touchdowns in one season. That
is insane.
I remember when I got his jersey for Christmas, it wasn't even like a stitch jersey. It was one of those like painted over jerseys.
Those are the good ones.
Yeah. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like I was so pumped. He was a beast. He was a beast. He
was our LT. Remember, like everyone was like, he's not the real LT, and you were like, who is Lawrence? Who are you talking? Who is that guy?
Oh my gosh, dude. LaDainian Tomlinson, 28 rushing touchdowns.
I also want to say, I think we can both agree who the offensive rookie of the year is currently. It's Jamar Chase, hands down. There's it's not really much of a debate. You know, it's funny because a lot of people were on him in the preseason because he was dropping. I was on him on the preseason for sure. I was on him.
He was dropping all those passes, but you know, shout out to Richie and Dan who came on the one time. Obviously, we didn't stream that episode, but that's a bloopers episode. But anyway, they were talking about like Cincinnati having a good season, and so far, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, they're playing relatively well.
Yeah, they are. They're definitely a perfect example. They're like how I was talking about the Eagles are closer to being a bad team. They're to me closer to being a good team rather than like an average team.
Yeah,
they're closer to being a solid team. I mean, they are a solid team.
No, they're putting some pieces together. But Bryce, obviously, great episode again as always. If you guys haven't already, subscribe to the podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You could find Bryce and I on any single platform. Also follow Bryce on Instagram and his new Twitter account, Bryce's Bets. He's got one locked in, ready for tomorrow night. And also, Bryce, I'm going to leave you off with this trivia question. Postseason baseball is going on right now. Obviously, the Phils aren't in it, but a lot of good games. The Red Sox just beat the Rays to go on to the ALCS. The Astros just advanced for the 5th year in a row. They were going at it with the White Sox. And then you look over at the NL, Giants and Dodgers, that series up for grabs, Game 5, and you have the Braves and the Brewers. So,
Braves won. They moved on.
Yeah, I'm saying that series was great. Freddie Freeman hitting that home run last night, dude. That was electric in the 8th inning. That dude's a stud. He'll get re-signed by the Braves. But anyway, I want to leave you with this trivia question. How many minutes of actual baseball is played during a baseball game? During an average baseball game. My bad. Let me repeat.
I have two numbers.
How many minutes are played during an average baseball game?
I want to say I have two numbers in my head, but I'm going to go with 18 minutes. I think it's 18 minutes, right?
18 minutes exactly, dude. Isn't that crazy? Baseball games go on. I mean, I was watching that game, the Red Sox Rays extra innings. Now, obviously, that's not your average baseball game. But man, when that was going into all those extra innings, that was like a 5.5 hour time slot. The average baseball game, you're there for 3 hours at least. Yeah, so to see that stat where the average amount was 18 minutes, I'm like, that's a great trivia question. I had to ask you before.
I mean, are we going to talk about how my accuracy with these trivia questions? It's ridiculous.
You're spot on, or I don't know if you're like on the account reading my mind, seeing.
No, you know, I thought it was either 13 minutes or 18 minutes. I knew it was under half an hour. I knew it was like, I was like, it's under half an hour. I knew that, but I thought it was 18.
You always get these trivia questions right off the bat. But good work, and obviously great episode as always. Listen, tomorrow night, Philadelphia Eagles, Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Philly. Bryce, how do we end this off?
Go Birds, baby. Big win tomorrow. Big win tomorrow. Come on, Jalen.
Lock it in. All right. Good work, brother. I'll talk to you later.